Welcome, Internet Nomad. This is my own game Tales of Heavy Rain. I was introduced to this game by Scott the Woz. He made a video covering the full game. I wish I didn't watch the whole video. The mystery of this game was awesome. I decided to play this game for the year of narrative games. So yeah, the game was spoiled by Scott. If you like narrative games, don't watch the spoiler section of this video. Go play the game or watch the many playthroughs on YouTube. I began to learn how to love playthroughs of games. It began with watching a game I might cover in a video. I always try to beat the game for myself before I share my game tale on it. I'm thinking of making a side series where I just talk about my experience with games I haven't beat but have memories playing. Most of them are childhood gems that I was too young to beat. Anyway, back to Heavy Rain. I first played this on PS Now. I decided to buy the game on Steam Deck so I could finally finish it. The game is called The Psychological Thriller on its Steam page. The game centers around the mystery of this serial killer known as the Origami Killer. The Origami Killer drowns his victims in rainstorms. The game is a 4-character affair. Each character is deeply involved in the story. Ethan is the father of Sean. Sean was kidnapped by the Origami Killer. Ethan is trying his best to find Sean before he drowns. The second character is Norman, who is an FBI agent who is trying to solve the mystery of the Origami Killer. The third character is Madison Page. She always lends a helping hand to Ethan. Her motives are unclear at the start of the game. The fourth character is Scott Shelby. He's a private detective who also wants to find the Origami Killer. He visits past victims' relatives looking for hints. The gameplay involves QuickTime events and motion using both the joystick and gyro controls. I had to play on my Steam Deck in handheld mode because I couldn't get the gyro controls working on my controller. I liked how many endings this game possibly has. I still only played the game once. I might try and replay the story in a couple of years and maybe write a second playthrough episode on it. Since I'm swimming in narrative games right now to play, I don't think a second playthrough will happen anytime soon. At first I was playing the game less seriously, but I wanted to get a good ending, so I quickly did the QuickTime events right. Before I go into spoilers, I'm going to speak about my thoughts on the story broadly. The game sets up everything nicely. I feel like the mystery is solvable before everything is said out loud. People might find the game cheesy with the plot or that it's too predictable. What I learned in college is that stories can be predictable and still be good. I think what saves this story is the gameplay. The gameplay takes the QuickTime events to another level. Holding more than one button down, being able to fail and change the story, and moving the controller around make up the gameplay. You want to finish the story because of how well the story is put together. Even if you solve the mystery early, you have to play in order to get that good ending. Okay, spoilers. Ethan begins the game losing his son Jason. Basically, he loses sight of him at the mall. When Ethan finds Jason, he's on the other side of a busy street. A car hits Jason and he dies. Ethan begins to be blamed by his ex-wife for Jason's death. This begins a very slow start to the game. The events before Jason's death show how happy Ethan's life was with his whole family. This is nicely contrasted with Ethan's life with Sean post the death of Jason and the divorce. The tension between Sean and Ethan is felt. Sean blames Ethan for the death of his brother. This causes a great disconnect between Sean and his father. One day, Ethan takes Sean to the park, and Ethan passes out. When he wakes up, Sean is gone. It ends up the Origami Killer kidnaps Sean. Ethan receives a box from the killer with instructions. The instructions state Ethan has to pass trials if he wants to see Sean alive. Ethan has to finish these trials in order to find the address of his son. These trials feature death-defying stunts and other dangerous tests of sacrifice and harm. Madison Paige is actually a journalist who helps Ethan in order to get the scoop. Ethan and Madison build a relationship that is threatened by the discovery of her motive to help. Norman ends up piecing together evidence using his FBI glasses. These glasses are futuristic and borderline science fiction. The glasses could examine evidence and map out locations and create a list of motives. I like this feature. It could have been presented as just going through a stack of papers, but the glasses really blend with the menus and gameplay. Depending on the evidence you pick up, Norman could solve the case. The reason the origami killer makes the father of children go through trials has to do with his past. Basically, as a child, the origami killer and his brother were playing in the rain. His brother got stuck in a sewer. The origami killer went to his dad, but his dad didn't help. This caused him to test other dads to help their son in the same situation. After each test, letters to an address get filled in. The last one is to drink poison that will kill a person in 1 hour. This gives Ethan enough time to save his son. As Norman, there are red herrings for the origami killer. Near the end of the game, the player only has one shot to discover the identity of the killer. Norman could accuse the police chief. Instead of following that logic, there's a vital clue that is only there if you beat a certain QuickTime event. This gives a precise location for the killer. Madison continues to follow her leads and finds the whereabouts of the killer. We learn he uses his police background to trick children into following him. This is how he kidnaps them. There's an action-packed scene for each character. Scott Shelby almost drowns in his car. Norman faces a man at the junkyard. Ethan runs away from the police to do the final piece of the trials. Madison escapes the origami killer's apartment, which he sets on fire. Scott Shelby ends up being the origami killer. He witnessed Ethan trying to save his son Jason from a car crash and decided to target him for his trials. Scott isn't a hired detective trying to solve the case. He's returning to past victims to destroy all the evidence he left behind. Scott wanted to test fathers of his victims to see if any would risk their life to save their son. That is why there are trials. He doesn't want the children to die. He wants to find the father that would give up everything for their son. My playthrough ended with saving Sean, and the poison ended up being fake. The origami killer dies in the end. I think I got one of the happier endings in the game. I like how the game could end without a good ending. The killer doesn't need to be found. Each character could lose their life before the end. That is my own game Tales.